Welcome to episode 20 of Inches and Cubes. As always, I'm Paul S. Mr. Fist Fowler.
You want to try that again?
No. We're doing it.
Point and click Nick.
And Adam, the truest axe.
And today we're going to be experiencing the Terrainopocalypse, which is just going to... Oh my god, Nick's trying to pop a cork.
Don't shoot me.
And he's like pointing it right at me.
It's pointing up.
In my face. Yeah, so what we're going to do... Oh my god.
You need a bigger nostril, don't you?
Yeah. Oh god.
Okay, just keep talking.
Anyways,
I'll get it.
It's so distracting. Yeah, so we're just going to be talking about terrain, how to plan it, why you need it, how it functions in a game, and how to use it to your advantage. So, no.
Hand Nick a knife.
Yeah, hand Nick a knife. Good.
Use the blunt side.
But first, what we'll be doing...
No.
Not helping.
Oh god, okay. You guys are the worst. This is probably the most meandering intro ever. But now they're going to be hearing the music that we normally hear, and we'll be right back. Alright, well, Nick's still working on that cork.
It's been 20 seconds.
It's been 20 minutes. I went out to get smokes.
And I came back,
I
Dad.
came back. Alright, well, Hobby Desk. Who wants to go first on that one?
I love our lovely rebranded hobby desk time.
Rebranded? It's always been Hobby Desk. Oh my
Nick's
god.
turning red.
Nick, just
It's turning red.
Alright.
So,
Oh, you got this thing broken.
That was not me.
how do you break it?
Alright. Adam, tell them what you did, and I'm going to open this beer.
Yep, so I did a few things. I've been painting some Federation ships for Star Trek.
Which ones?
The USS Farragut, the USS Intrepid, and the USS... I can't remember.
I'm not familiar with those. I think the Farragut's
Do you have a corkscrew?
a Daedalus class ship. That one.
Because this thing... Alright.
So they're all the old school ones from like the classic
Yeah.
Kirk series. Anyway, they're super cool retro ships. Had some fun with that. Painted some undead things. For my personal stuff, I built a bunch of Yu Ching Infinity stuff and used the Green Stuff World's Green Stuff rollers for bases.
Oh yeah. Which one did you use?
I used the factory one.
Okay.
I have about 10 of them, but I used the factory one for this. And they worked really well. I was really impressed. And
Paul's a
surprised.
hero.
Yeah.
Woo! What do you have there, Nick?
I have Loki's Garden. He's a trickster.
Oh.
So this is a Norwegian farmhouse ale. This beer begins with letting juniper berries soak for hours in water, which is then boiled for over 5 hours. A Kvik yeast from Voss supplied by Escarpment Labs is then added, which produces a subtle spiciness with tasty orange esters. Skål! That is my Norwegian accent.
Beautiful.
That's good, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Okay. That's fun.
Oh, and I worked on Magnus.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
I want to see pictures of Magnus.
30 or 40?
started painting it. 40K, the demon one, Big Daddy with the wings.
Hey,
So
you-
to paint his armor.
Yeah, you said you were doing full armor on him?
Yep, full armor.
That's quite delicious.
I'll try that. Oh, it is fruity.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna try it because Nick's sick.
Oh, man.
You
So-
ready? I'm gonna start opening my beer. Oh, I'm finished.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, look how easy that was.
What do you got?
The last time you brought a Fates and Furies on here, it took you a couple minutes to get it open.
I can't remember. I will just trust you.
It was me. It took me a little
It
bit.
was you.
Yeah.
So I did Muskoka last week, so I decided to compare someone right next door, and I got 2 Lake of Bays beers this time. So this is called Wild North. The Wild North series, so I guess I got a few different ones, and this is their Golden Chai Ale. I figured I like chai tea. Why not try a chai beer? Ready? Breathe in, everybody. Breathe out. I was just reading. You didn't have to do that.
Well,
Fresh, spicy aromatics introduces effervescent brew. Real chai tea offers a hint of cardamom, cinnamon, and clove. Ontario hops and a splash of pure orange zest round out the finish. There you go.
well, that just sounds darling.
Yeah.
I went ahead and started finishing up the Typhon. I did a lot of work for that.
Oh, dirty.
I know.
Typhon.
I know. That's not how you make friends. I did a lot of work on it to get it ready for that campaign day we had a while back. And since then, it's kind of been on the back burner. I was able to get a little bit of work done on that today, as well as sort out the aggressors and like figure out a color scheme for them. So I'm going to do black fists on them and black helmets, just to tie them in with the assault, or tie them sort of into the assault and tie them sort of into the heavy support colors.
Nice.
So yeah, and like I think with the black, I'll be able to do metal chips on the fists really well. And yeah, that's my hobby desk for me. How about you, Nick?
I was away all weekend.
Okay.
I was in Kitchener for a wedding and sick for the rest of it, so unfortunately I don't have anything done.
That's no good. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to crack open this.
Woo!
Yeah, that's a Kilkenny right there. The big spray was from the embedded, or the in-can little agitator nitrous thing. So it acts as a draft. It's a draft can. And this is an Irish cream ale. I had a bunch of these up at the cottage that we stayed at on the weekend. And it might be one of my favorite beers.
It is really good. It's kind of like a light Guinness.
Yeah, it's made by the Guinness people. I started drinking this one in Newfoundland because I found Guinness too heavy. And then some guy suggested this to me. And it is delicious.
Those guys know how to get beer right, eh?
The Irish?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to be able to see me with this creamy head all up in my mustache.
Have you tried Boddington's?
No.
Similar style. There's a nitrous ball in there too, so it pours the same. But again, it's like a light, not too like super carbonated, like a pop, right?
Yeah.
So really, really soft and easy to drink, and even lighter than this one. So
Nice.
yeah.
Cool. So, on the same note, I was away all weekend and was sick for the rest of it, so I don't have any games played.
I was also away all weekend, so I didn't get any games in. Though I will take this opportunity to say I will be rescheduling my game with Val Heffelfinger, see how he plays, see if I can get that in maybe next Tuesday, as that's his gaming night, or I might suggest a Sunday.
There you go.
So I'm calling you out, Val.
Take me to church. Warhammer Church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually played a game. I played a
Nice.
game of 40k, and I played a game of Infinity. My 40k game was against one Victor Cruzerio, something like that. Very, very nice gentleman who played Dark Angels. And so I was using my Luna Wolves, mainly Primaris army. So all the stuff from the starter set, plus a Redemptor Dreadnought, 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts, a Rhino, and a small tactical squad. And he wanted to try... He was open to trying Maelstrom, and I said, we'll just roll straight out of the rulebook, see what happens. We ended up rolling Maelstrom, and then we played Hammer and Anvil style deployment. Is that this way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hammer and Anvil style deployment. And we played the one where you can steal the other person's secure objective.
Oh, I like
X.
those ones, yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't actually end up coming up ever, so nobody stole anything. But I just had such great board control and prevented him from dropping down his Belial and 2 units of Deathwing Terminators.
Ooh.
So he held it off for his turn because he was like, oh, I can't find a spot in your deployment zone, so I'm going to like wait for you to move kind of thing. He didn't say that, but
Yeah,
I could tell that's what he was doing. And then I just like, all right, I'm not moving.
I'll just spread out a little bit.
Yeah, so I just pushed more up the board, and then he was like, shoot. So I had a little pocket. I was definitely ahead on the points at the beginning because of that. And he did manage to pull out priority orders received. And Belial is his warlord, and basically priority orders received means you get to pull another card, and if your warlord does that card, you get 3 plus the points on it.
Nice.
And he then rolled, what's it called, like priority objective or something like that, which is D3 if you capture like a random objective. So it was potentially 6 points for one card, right?
Yeah.
And I only had like, 5 points or whatever, so he could totally have just taking the lead on points there. And so he dropped his Belial down, and there was like a tiny pocket right beside the objective that he rolled. So he snuck Belial and all his Terminators in there, and he shot at the unit that was on that objective, and I pulled the guys off that were closer to him, so then he couldn't charge onto it. And I think he was a little sad about that.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't make his charge, unfortunately.
That's one of those instances where you're like, do I shoot or do I charge? Like, you got to weigh the benefits.
Yeah. So he learned from that. He won't do that again next time. And ended up being a victory for me. So
Hooray!
Well done, Adam.
yeah, I sat on Belial with the Redemptor Dreadnought. It was kind of funny.
Rude. So I mean, this is pretty quick intro and beginning segment for us.
Oh, I guess we can say we have a meeting tomorrow, Saturday, 3 p.m. at Duff's?
No, it's Dewey's.
Dewey's, okay.
Yeah.
Dewey's Tavern.
Dewey's Tavern across at Smock and Blood.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
$15 pitchers of beer.
Mm-hmm.
15?
Yeah.
I thought there were 10.
No,
15.
they've never been 10.
No?
No,
Oh,
they
right,
haven't been
that's-
10 since 1998.
Right, that's Einstein's.
Yeah, we're not going to
No,
Einstein.
we're not going to Einstein's.
we have
Duffy's is bad.
highbrow tastes like Duffy's.
cool beer?
I'm not doing it. I am not drinking one drop of cool beer.
Yes, you are.
No, I am not. I
Yes,
will
you are.
die, and I don't want to. Not like that.
Are you still refusing to come to brunch with us the next day?
Maybe.
We're going to go get dim sum.
Oh, man.
Dim sum for brunch? It's creative.
What's the thing?
Yeah, Spadina
Is
and
it?
does.
Nice.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
All right, well, anyways.
Yeah, come down. Check it out. Adam's going to be giving a speech. Paul's going to be giving a speech. I'm going to be giving a speech.
We didn't actually say what it was.
Oh, it's the
It's the annual
AG.
general meeting.
Yeah, it's the annual general meeting for
Hogtown 40K.
40K.
Oh,
our gaming
not
club.
Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Don't have those in a bar.
No. It seems weird. Anyways, here's a message from our sponsors.
Battle Brothers Studios, a commission painting service passionate about making your miniatures and your gaming table look great. Our philosophy at Battle Brothers is this: your army is our army. Every model will be something you can be proud to show off. Send us a message on facebook.com/Battle Brothers Studios for a free quote and make that dream project come to life. We also have something special planned for the release of 8th edition of 40K. Right now, get 20% off if you commission us to paint an 8th edition starter set, or get a 10% off Army Bundle bonus for painting up your new 8th edition 40K Army. Inquire with us on Facebook for full details.
Hogtown, Hogtown, Hogtown!
Saturdays at Sword and Board!
Rock and Blur!
It's behind the pizza.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah!
Idiots. And we're back to Terrainopocalypse. This is, again, like we said, episode 20, and Adam is going to be running us through some stuff. Adam, what do your notes say?
Yeah, I'll give you the brief overview of kind of how this is going to work, because we're going to cover a number of different topics for based around terrain. So first off, we're going to talk about terrain rules, and so that'll involve the specific rules around terrain, how things have kind of changed, and now that we've played 8th edition for a bit, what we think of the differences. It'll talk about strategies then also involving terrain in game, and then we'll talk about the differences between building a table versus purchasing a pre-made table, and then if you are going to build a table from scratch, what are some things you should think about, and then because we got pretty good at building terrain this year with the Hogtown 40K Club. We're going to talk about how you can run an effective terrain sweatshop.
Yep.
It's basically
Friend shop.
Oh,
they were all friends.
right. Yeah, because these are adults, not kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got to call it something else. Yeah, so that's kind of the basic overview. So let's start with just playing with terrain. The number one question here is why is it important?
Yeah. Well, I mean, none of this episode matters to me because I'm just going to ignore terrain
And cover.
and
Do you
cover.
ignore line of sight?
No. Why? Is that important with terrain,
That
Nicholas?
is really important. I find terrain it's got two things, and you can build a table that doesn't actually have any terrain that looks fantastic. And what I mean by that, the best example I have by that is I've seen the most beautiful War Machine table. War Machine is a hobby game that doesn't use a lot of terrain, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a big can of worms right there.
Yeah. But from what I've seen,
Because it should use terrain, and because people are so picky about it because the game's so competitive, they decided to make all their terrain flat.
yeah, so there's no terrain. But it's this really cool table, and it's basically the board, and somebody built moving gears underneath a plexiglass shield, and you play on top of that.
Oh,
Cool.
that's really cool.
So the terrain really, it builds the narrative. It doesn't matter if you have the most beautiful painted armies, and I throw down this bottle of beer, and I'm like, that's a silo. Kind of brings you out of it. Stacks
Yeah.
of books on top of each other, that's a building. That Kleenex box is a hab block. No, doesn't work. But
And that's all to say, we play with toy soldiers for
Yeah.
a reason, not just paper cutouts.
Picking up
not,
chicks?
Not a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the reason. That's Paul's main reason. That's why he does it.
Hell yeah.
But it's all about style points, right?
yeah,
we
it's
want this to
definitely
come to
style points.
life.
But it's just the coolest that's what I think got me into the hobby, was going into the battle bunker in Oakville when it existed, and seeing the Helm's Deep table.
Yeah.
Ah, what a great scene.
When they actually had the Helm's Deep fortress from Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers, reconstructed with the removable piece of the wall.
Yeah.
When the orcs blow it up. And I remember one of my first games with my Core Berserker army was Core Berserker storming Helm's Deep. And it was super
so
cool.
When the one orc that Legolas can't kill does it. I guess.
So, yeah. So there's that element to it. It gives you the narrative. It makes you feel a little bit more immersed in the actual game. But it also makes it more tactical.
Mm-hmm.
Terrain makes the game tactical and not just a random game of chance.
Yeah, think about the difference between chess and Risk, right?
Yeah.
Chess is a game with no terrain. Risk is a game where they take it to the next level, and it's almost the same thing,
Yeah,
but they add terrain.
Don't get penned into Australia.
Yeah.
It's a losing strategy.
And
Yeah.
you can't fight a land war against Russia.
No.
Yeah, they add you can only invade certain countries from certain places,
Yep.
right? You're bordered in somewhat in some ways, and it's the same thing for a 28mm company size miniature war game, right?
Mhm.
You throw some terrain on the board, you got some things to think about with your life now.
Yeah.
all of a sudden that super powerful shooty unit has its line of sight blocked and can't be as effective, or what is normally viewed as a lackluster close combat unit. If you're able to hug terrain, keep it out of line of sight, and use it to pounce on somebody,
Yeah.
you're good. You're golden.
And it's I think what we should say right off the bat is if you are playing with the terrain, discuss with your opponent before you start rolling dice what stuff is. It'll just stop arguments later. I've had a couple mid game people claiming a cover save on something that I assumed wouldn't be cover,
Yeah.
and they did, or vice versa, and you want to do that.
No.
Um,
No, then you do that, and you're like, "Did you make a difficult terrain roll?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Then why are you claiming cover for it? The piece of terrain you moved into."
Well, it's different now
Yeah.
because we're in 8th edition. There's no
that's
such thing as difficult terrain.
Horus Heresy.
So let's jump right in there.
First.
Let's talk about the rules. So the biggest thing now is we just noticed a difference right here, right? Is that terrain before would give a standard cover save based on what it was. Is this a ruin? Is this a bunker? Is this a forest?
Right.
Is this a Venom Thorn?
That's right.
Yeah.
Is this a bike that can jink?
Yeah.
I just want to picture that every time. It's just like a guy.
Well, the 2-up rerollable jink just flipping upside down, blinking in and out of reality. I
Biker mice from Mars,
hated the 2-up rerollable jink save.
especially on bikes.
Yep.
So now it's pretty much across the board. It's just a standard +1 your armor save.
Yeah, so there are some caveats to that. We've got a whole section in the book here on battlefield terrain, and it can get a little complicated, but I think most gaming groups, and our gaming group, has really simplified it. we say, is that cover? Yes, no. If it's cover, if your models are in a unit are entirely on or within, which means part of their base is on the actual base of the ruin, you get +1 to your cover save.
Mm-hmm.
Vehicles have to be on and 50% obscured to get +1. And then if you're playing the city fight game, infantry gets +2 if they're on a ruin, which is kind of cool.
So I found this an interesting way to help vehicles out, because they basically never get cover.
Oh, yeah.
Is count everything as a barricade to a vehicle. Like every piece of terrain to a vehicle is a barricade if you can. So you have to be within 1 inch of it, right? And you have to be 50% obscured.
No, there's nothing about barricades that says it gives vehicles cover.
No, I know it doesn't say that, but as a house rule, to actually give your vehicles cover.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's just a simple little change.
I like
the within 1 inch helps.
I like just 50% of the model has to be obscured just
by anything.
Then to get rid of the keyword, just 50% of that model has, whether it's a Titanic unit, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a beast, whether it's a bike, whether it's a whatever. Doesn't matter. If it's 50% obscured, you get +1 to your... I don't care. I ignore cover with most of my weapons anyways. But that's beside the point.
I think this would be a good little debate to have. I think it gives too much opportunity for cover.
Yeah.
Because clearly their angle was to make you work for it.
And also, like, consider me hitting 50% of a person is a lot harder than me hitting 50% of a truck. You know,
Yeah,
it's a much bigger target.
And it should be easier for infantry to get cover.
Right.
Right.
I can hide a lot easier than a Ford F-150.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying like 50? So infantry unit, if it's 50% obscured or in cover, gains the bonus.
Oh, I would say for infantry, it's just within it, like you said, or the barricade behind.
But here's the thing, right? Like if there's a building that's got some barrels. Maybe some pipes, maybe a broken bending machine, and you've got a unit of fire warriors on one side of the building and a unit of orcs on the other side of the building. Fire warriors shoot at the orcs. On the current rules, that orc unit is not getting any cover save, even though the fire warriors are literally shooting through a ruin. That's my issue with the current rules right now.
Yeah, I agree with that, but this is the world we're in.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's a new thing.
Yeah, and so I think the thing to that is because they're shooting through it, yes, but the orcs aren't in it, so they can't easily like hide behind something. Like, oh, they're shooting at us, I'm gonna duck under this wall, or I'm gonna sit behind this barrel, or I'm gonna.
Yeah, like cover now represents, I think. How like the protection afforded from intervening things as opposed to how hard it is to hit you.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like it's it doesn't take in like the hesitation of your gunman.
That's what cover used to kind of be, and it kind of explained that in the rules, right? That was like, that's why when you're shooting in the old rules, and I think 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th edition, if you were shooting through your own models at an enemy unit, the enemy unit got a cover save based on that hesitation to fire. I think that was in there. But that kind of leads to my next point, unless you guys have anything else to say on that.
No, I don't think so.
I think the best way to do this, and what I've discovered is going to go into the purchase game thing. When we first bought the GameMat.eu stuff as a club, a lot of people weren't the biggest fans of it. The biggest complaints was like, oh, we can't put our models in there, we can't claim cover. But in the few games that I've played with it, it is fantastic line of sight blocking terrain.
Yeah.
And I think line of sight blocking terrain is what needs to be focused on now, not
for 8th edition.
For 8th edition,
yes.
Yeah, because I think that is what changes the game. That's what makes people think. That's what makes people move their models and, not just set up a unit in a great firing spot and just blow anybody away who comes at them. Because
there's not much thinking there.
No, there's not much thinking there. And yeah, I just really like line of sight blocking terrain. It makes for interesting games. It makes for tactical decisions, and you can make some cool looking stuff and buy some cool looking stuff as well.
I'm still partial to area terrain. Like I like the idea of a camper setting up and just picking at people like snipers.
Or you need a combination of both for sure. But what I'm saying is, it's just because the kind of the what's the word I'm looking for?
Xylophone.
No.
Meta.
Thrust.
No, ambiguity of the
Okay.
rules with cover. Like, the line of sight stuff is just a hard, solid, I can't see you, I can't
Yeah.
hit you.
Yeah.
Versus like, because right now in the current rules, you have a unit of 10 guardsmen. That one guardsman, his base isn't on or within that piece of terrain. None of those guys get cover. You're like,
So you kill that guy first.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. Everything's resolved
As the receiving player.
No,
Yeah, you
everything's
choose-
resolved at the same time.
Well,
You don't
weapon
roll
pools.
one dice and be like, I failed to save. This guy dies. Everybody else gets +1.
No, but as the next unit
No.
shoots and he's dead.
I know.
Yeah.
Anyways, so let's talk about that. Building a table versus purchasing a table. We've done both.
Yep.
You talked about how the GameOut.eu stuff is great for line of sight blocking. Is there a need, do you think, to add to those sets?
Yeah, and I think we found that, and the best combination that we've had so far was the Gothic Ruins, which I think added an element. And there was 2 pint glasses worth of beer in that bottle.
Yeah.
That the Gothic Ruins added that area terrain aspect, where the industrial sector stuff added the line of sight blocking. So combining those two, I've had the best games when we've put those 2 tables together.
Nice.
Yeah, I really like the Game.eu stuff. Like, you can't... I don't think you can beat its value, like,
No.
with any other third party.
Oh, it's so cheap. It's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
But, like, it does... just the one kit I do find, like, sometimes sparse.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I would go with a pre-painted option.
Never.
For, like, an extra 20... Was it $20?
It was a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's like... And it's just... You're going to do better with rattle can and dry brushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
So then, building your own table.
Well, let's go back for 1
Sure,
second, because I wrote something down there as well. There's a really cool thing that we often overlook when we're talking about building a table, and that's the actual gaming surface,
yeah.
Mhm.
because that's super important. So some of the best gaming surfaces I've ever played on, up until recently, were actually like the Citadel realm of battle boards,
Yeah.
because I really liked the actual
Sculpted hills.
Yeah, sculpted hills.
Oh, those drove me crazy.
Really?
You
Yeah.
like it?
Moving guys up the
Yeah.
slight.
Yeah, having different elevations on the board and stuff,
Yeah.
I find adds a cool aspect to the game. It's hard to
So
do.
I
It's hard
agree
to
with
pull
that.
off.
But the gradient.
Yeah.
Like,
No, yes, yes.
Angle.
yeah.
yes.
Plump, 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 plump.
So you
That's-
throw your dice and your orc just walks down the hill 6 inches.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then recently we got a hold of a whole bunch of inexpensive GameOut.eu table mats.
Those
And
things
I love them.
are a dream.
Yeah.
Like, if...
I don't get bloody knuckles
I mean...
from playing Warhammer.
Oh, yeah, no. From your back alley brawls,
Yeah.
you do. But I really like playing on the game mats.
Yes.
I gotta say, I think I was more for textured boards. But then, like, just seeing how portable, how quick it is to, like, flip one of those out and you got a good looking board. They're really, really good.
And with the way technology is going, I found a company when I was in China that, the minimum order was like 1,000,
Okay, so
but
that's-
they would produce 6x4 mats for like $4 or $5. Minimum order was 1,000
yeah.
Well, Frank, let's get it.
with whatever
Will it
pattern
do
you
different
want.
patterns?
No, you tell them what pattern you want.
So is it one pattern for a whole 1,000?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
But, like, I gotta say, like, I like the portability, I like how quick it is. If you have the space, if you have the time to plan it out, though, there's something about, like, a textured table, like, having the like, hills, having the gravel, like, the stuff built in, that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, back to what we started off with, like the Helm's Deep table.
Yeah.
Or any of the really cool tables that you think about when you see in the White Dwarfs, right? Like most of those are built, they're not using the fat mats or the game mats.
No.
Yeah, because it's the fat mat to a degree takes away from the style points like we were talking about before.
Mm-hmm.
They look, don't get me wrong, they look great, and but the big thing for them is they're super practical,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, like you can throw that on a big dining room table. Like those are good. If you have the space, I would always go with like a tabletop. that's just my preference.
Yeah. So what do we mean when we say that?
Oh, like either a modular or one 6x4 with texture on it, so you can like build in rivers, or you could just go straight up like ash or dirt. So yeah, it's the 6x4 plank.
Make sure you get the right ones, not the ones that we got when we built the tables.
Not the beveled edges.
Not the beveled edges
that we had to
fill in with
caulking. Yeah.
And even then,
James.
Oh, that's your answer to everything.
Did I tell you what happened that day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you want to tell the listeners?
Sure, I'll tell the listeners. So James and I went to Home Depot. He picked me up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, and we went over there. We got 5 6x4 boards. They came in 8x4s, so we had them cut it to 6x4s.
Mm-hmm.
And then James went, "Hey man, these have beveled edges." I was like, "Oh no, these aren't going to work." So then we left everything on a cart in Home Depot, went over to Rona, and for some reason Rona stores all of its lumber outside, and all of their 6x4s were just warped. And we're like, we're going back to Home Depot. And our cart was still there like an hour later.
Yeah, they're the worst. Oh, Adam, what you got there?
Yeah, well, keeping with the theme, like I said, of doing some great cottage beers here, we got Lake of Woods Brewing Company. So not Lake of Bays.
I'm sorry, but it sounds like we're just naming stuff from like a grab bag of Ontario buzzwords.
Also,
right.
Lake of Bays doesn't make sense either.
No.
No.
Yeah.
Neither is Lake of Woods.
A Bay of Lakes?
Well, maybe, unless it's like a lagers, like, you know, like a bum 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 bum.
Oh, we're talking about beer, so when you say a logger's lake, I was like, what?
I actually meant like a lager, like someone who cuts down trees.
I pictured a lake of lager.
Do you mean heaven? All right, well, who's on first?
So, this Lake of Woods Brewing Company has made something called a Firehouse Ale, and it's an English nut brown. And I love English style beers, especially the nut browns, because they're brown.
You're just gonna softball
And
the
nutty.
term nut brown right over the plate, eh?
I mean, it's on the can, so.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
Almond milk isn't milk. Cashew milk isn't milk. It's nut juice.
All right, hot take.
Just heaping coals on the fire.
Yep.
Uh,
That's my peeve for today.
I made my baby with nut juice.
God, no.
So here we go. Here's the description on this can. It would only make sense for us to dedicate the name of this beer to our brewery and taproom location, a century-old fire hall in downtown Kenora. Chocolate malt provides the color and the aroma of this amber-colored ale. Classic English hop. Profiles balance... This is not even a sentence. Hop profiles balance this malt forward, pub-ish, brown ale, simple words change me, blah, blah, blah. Simple ale, but true to style with a roasted nut finish. Good form, Peter. Good form.
I think your brain has a slow leak.
Adam's having an
I was literally
aneurysm.
reading it off the can.
We'll
It's
be
a
right
horrible
back.
sentence.
All right, so where were we? Talking about
Matt's.
Mets.
Fat Mats.
Yeah. So in short, they're good. They're handy. They're very portable, which is what I like. But you know, I'll be always partial to like a textured board.
Definitely.
Yeah, but never with baking powder.
Never with baking powder.
So we had some
Chaz.
great experiments doing a big terrain project. We'll get in more of them into later in the podcast. But something just popped into my head. An actual fantastically done, sculpted from the ground up game board should be our next terrain project.
I like that idea.
Like
Let's come back to that
Yeah.
after we tell this story.
The story that also just popped in your head before
Yeah.
the other thing popped in your head.
Oh yeah, so the local game store.
Oh, you know what? Till they start paying us, I just can't remember their name.
Slavendord.
Slavendord,
Yeah.
the snail and nail,
Yeah, I think it's the surfing board.
the surfing board.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you surf on a board. Those guys are so great at picking
Surf and
that name.
turf, steak and lobster.
Yes. Medieval times.
Yeah. So the board and sword at
Brock and Blue.
Brock and Blur, they gave us a little bit of cash.
They gave us a nice bit of cash.
As a welcome present, and because they needed terrain for their new store. So we promised them, how many tables did we promise them?
6.
6 tables, and we did 3
homemade,
Three
three
purchased,
fully
yeah.
purchased. Yeah.
So we made 3 homemade tables. We made a Demon World one, which is still one of the coolest looking tables I've ever seen. Think about how much cooler it would be if it had a custom built battlescape. But that wasn't in the original.
It would fit. The train would fit on it.
I know.
Yeah. Like, we accidentally made 2 tables worth of terrain for that thing.
Then we made
Not
the
mad.
desert table, which was easy because painting desert sand is easy. And then we decided to do a snow table. And to get the snow effect, instead of just using paint and different levels of white, we decided to use baking soda powder.
I'm not sure which one we used.
Baking. I think it was the baking powder for the snow.
And then hairspray. And it did not work.
Yeah.
It sort of worked.
Every time I put my hand down on that table, it comes back covered in white dust.
But it's a proof of concept. I think it's better for display stuff.
Yeah, it looks cool.
It looks cool as heck. Like, I can't argue with the look of it. It's the practicality that's the only...
Yeah.
But nothing that just beats the local minister of provincial parliament coming by when we were throwing baking powder at it outside and then hitting it with hairspray going, what are you people doing? And then we explained it. She's like, oh, cool, I'm the local minister of provincial parliament. We're like...
Yeah, meanwhile, I'm, like, standing there looking at her, like, covered in white powder like Pablo Escobar, just being like, yeah, no, this is art. I'm, like, really excited to tell you about this.
With a can of hairspray in each hand.
Now, can the City of Toronto fund our next project, please?
So anyways, yeah,
Cool.
that was a fun thing.
Fun story. Jeez.
Oh,
Just, like, threw that at me.
yeah, my Coors Banquet just went off in my hand.
He's...
Brick, where'd you get that grenade?
I just found it. So there's beer everywhere, but don't worry. Coors Banquet, it's, gold from Colorado. You know how it is.
I like it.
Yeah.
I quite enjoy it. I remember one of the first times I came over to this neighborhood to play Phil. I stopped at the LCBO at DuPont and Symington, and they don't have a lot of beer. So
It's on the back.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of variety of beer.
What's on the back?
I don't have a big variety of beer. Anyways, I wanted to get some tall cans. Bring to Phil. I know Phil likes his beer. Brought some Coors Banquet. Didn't touch it. Came back like a month later. He said, "You want a beer?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "I still got some of that Coors Banquet you brought last time." And you just gave me shit for bringing Coors Banquet. I'm like, dude, it's good beer. It's not bad.
Well, here's the reason that I have this, is we were at the cottage, I don't know if I mentioned. And I was like, on the way up, and we stopped into a liquor store to get beer. I was like, I need 24 beer.
I need beer that I can drink 24 of in 8 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I don't condone any of this.
so I just got a flat of this. And,
Yeah.
I had like 9 left over from the weekend because I also brought it was Kilkenny, and we had a bartender come with us who kept making paper planes, and it's so good.
What the heck's a paper plane?
It's when you fold paper.
No, I know what that kind of paper plane is, but I can't imagine they were drinking those.
It's a cocktail. I don't know what's in it. I normally do, but at this point, I may have already had a few drinks, and
So you weren't paying attention.
no, I wasn't.
Yeah. All right, hey, let's see if we can't get back on track. We had a lot of excitement, a lot of fun things to learn and talk about, some cool stories, and all of that to say I'm getting us back on track by now saying...
It's been a couple episodes since he's had to do that.
I know.
I mean, after the nut juice comment.
Okay.
I learned it from you, Dad.
Okay. So if we're going to build our own table, okay?
All right.
There's generally 3 different types of terrain you got to think about when you're throwing it down, okay? and that is line of sight blocking terrain, area terrain, and throw terrain.
Right.
Yes.
How do each one of those work differently, and what are some of our experiences building some of those things?
Well, I think we've kind of explained area terrain and line of sight blocking terrain pretty well.
Yeah, so not rules wise, just building wise. Like as we're conceptualizing building a table, as we're planning for building a
So,
table.
like line of sight blocking terrain, you're thinking, especially because for some reason everything in the 40th millennium is either on fire or destroyed. So, line of sight, you really blocking terrain. You really want to think of intact structures,
yeah,
right? Silos, intact buildings that you can't go inside of. What else? What did we use for that?
So-
big hills.
Yeah, big hills, trees, anything really.
Big trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heck, at Astro, they had the blockade runner from Star Wars. They had a toy of it, and they just put it on its engine.
That was so cool.
So it's got the 810 engine on the
Oh, the
back.
Corellian Corvette. Like,
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Not the blockade runner. Sorry.
No, it was the
same thing.
It was the blockade. Yeah.
Oh.
Same thing.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, Corellian Shipyards provides the Rebel Alliance with a lot of their ships.
noted. Nerds. So they just had this thing spray painted, dry brushed, rusted, and they just had it up on its engines. And I think like probably 4 or 5 people walked right by that thing and they didn't even notice.
It was halfway through my first game when I noticed. I went to pick up a whole bunch of dead models that died to Yanari Soulburst 8 times, and I was like, "Oh man,
Wish I could shoot you, and I died.
that's Princess Leia's ship." That's
and then
so
his
cool.
dreams come true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things like that, things that just they should serve as kind of like a focal point for the table.
Mm-hmm. So some easy examples. We took some big soup cans, like crushed tomato cans, and made some.
Chickpea cans.
Were they chickpea ones?
I think they're
The big ones.
Yeah.
Sweet. And we. We
important.
ripped the labels off, turned them upside down, threw some train tracks on top, train track bridges on top, and some ladders on the sides.
Yeah.
And we made some oil drums you can climb on top of, and they're great.
They look great.
They really do look fantastic. And then the sand table, we built some very cool, kind of funky, futuristic looking buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just simple 4 walls, a roof, kind of a little. What's the thing on top of a roof? With the
A gunman?
no.
Oh, yeah. The little wall that protects you.
Yeah.
Not a rampart.
Yes. Yeah, rampart.
There you go.
Parapet.
Parapet's like a specific thing, isn't it? That doesn't matter. Yep.
So intact buildings. Even I've seen some great examples of just big aquarium logs. Like we talked about big trees.
Phil gets quite a bunch of those for his Death World one. And just goes to an aquarium store, and they're perfect.
Yeah.
It works great.
Yeah.
Area terrain. So that's line of sight blocking. Area terrain. What are we thinking when we're looking to build some of that kind of stuff? How do you process building that?
Area terrain, for me, it will always be craters. Like that is my brain doesn't go very far beyond craters.
Okay.
When it comes,
I think of like a totally collapsed building.
That's what always comes to my mind.
yeah.
But yeah, craters, a swamp. I think area terrain to me is basically the picture in your mind when you think of like no man's land in a World War I battlefield, right? Where you have what used to be a forest and is now just tree trunks and craters and trenches and destroyed buildings and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, easily throw them together with some. You can either, I'm making these out of just foam core and like making it messy. It's so easy to do destroyed things well.
yeah,
Right. You don't have to be a top tier terrain maker to make area terrain.
You just got to get the suggestion of the structure when it's like blown up buildings and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And especially like use lots of bits, use like all your leftover shavings of stuff and just like glue them in fun ways to just make piles of rubble. It's super, super simple.
yeah, for sure.
And then throw terrain.
So throw terrain is something that we've only started doing in the past year,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes all the difference in a table.
Yeah.
It really does, because it's customizable. You can put it where it needs to be.
With a little bit of planning, you can make sure that you can put it on multiple tables.
Yeah. But things like fences, the pipes on the desert table, the boxes for the industrial style table. What other types of throw terrain do we have kicking around at the moment?
Well, it doesn't have to be what we have kicking around, but you can make things like ammo piles.
Yeah, tank traps.
Yeah, tank traps is great. And so you're getting the definition of throw terrain as we talk about it, right? Just little pieces of terrain that can be moved around really easily. They don't take up a lot of space. They're more for infantry cover type of things, and they really just add character to the table.
And like, you know, with tank traps especially, you can make infantry only areas. Like, because what does it actually say for obstacles, which is what the GW kits of
There are
tank
two
traps.
types of obstacles. Tank traps, which are obstacles to vehicles and monsters. Well, they didn't say they weren't monster traps. And tangle wire, which is an obstacle to everything else, although I don't see a bike being, or a jet bike being slowed down by tangle wire. But yeah, so basically, units are slowed when they attempt to move over obstacles. Oh, they're just slowed. You must have the unit's advance or charge distance.
Yeah, so like you start using that stuff, you can set up an area of board control or just like a difficult area. And once you have that in, you select your table sides, you can start using the terrain to your advantage.
And you can also just say, hey, this is impassable to everybody who doesn't have the fly keyword.
Sure.
Right?
So yeah, and like we said, throw terrain, it just adds character, so have fun with it. We could talk, like, it could be like, I don't know, piles of dead bodies.
Well, we made those cracked lava pits.
Yeah.
For the demon table. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
They look cool as heck, though.
They look really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we basically cut up a whole bunch of foam core, arranged it in a pattern that looked like lava had hardened and then was cracking again, and then Adam went in with an airbrush and highlighted all the bits in the middle so it looks like lava's glowing from underneath. You throw that down on the table and it just looks like there's a lava pit.
Yeah, that looked really cool.
Yeah. Connor, good work. We did really good work on that, Connor.
Mm-hmm. He's barely a coward these days.
I know.
Cool. So combine all three of those elements together.
Voltron.
And you...
No.
Megazord.
And you got probably a pretty sweet table. Let's talk about how many pieces of each do you think is appropriate for kind of like a standard table?
It really depends on the size of them. But I guess you're probably looking... The way I like to think about it is you're breaking it down into 24 by 24 inch squares on the table.
Okay.
Each of those squares on the table should have a piece of terrain that takes up approximately 12 by 12 of it.
Okay, so 25% of it. 24 by 24,
Yeah.
and then a 12 by 12.
Yeah.
Is 25% of a square.
Is it? I'm
Yeah.
bad at math.
Square. Here, guys, this is a visual game now. 24 all the way across. 12 is from here to here. 12.
No, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems bigger because you're putting it in the middle, right?
Yeah.
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 So that's the way I like to set up a game. Sometimes, if you're playing City Fight, then you obviously want to cram as much as possible in there. You can go bigger, you can go smaller.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what you should have, is you should have at least 6 medium-sized terrain pieces on a game board.
Cool. So if we're talking about line of sight blocking terrain, maybe that's like 3 big line of sight blocking pieces, 3, medium-sized area terrain pieces. And what do you think about throw terrain?
As much as you can.
Yeah. So
it doesn't...
I'd say between like 10 to 15 pieces of throw terrain on a standard 6x4 table is probably appropriate.
Yeah, because they're tiny, right? You're not talking about much. You're talking about some dragon's teeth. You're talking about some barbed wire.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Cool. All right. So our last thing is, like we mentioned earlier, we had our local game shop changed ownership, sort of. The old store moved out, and then
I'm not really sure of that arrangement.
thankfully a new gaming store moved in, is more how it happened.
Oh, you're not going to Dueling Grounds doubles tournament?
What do you mean?
We're a positive place.
Yeah. Oh, just for anybody who's in the Peterborough area, Dueling Grounds is having a doubles tournament, and they invited a whole bunch of Hogtown guys to go.
Oh, do they?
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, anyways, so our local game store essentially changed ownership, and they had no terrain, and so we had to, just as a club, we really had to rally around. We had a bunch of our own terrain, but we had to rally around the idea that there was basically not going to be very much terrain that we really relied on, and so we had to come together as a team and make a whole bunch.
And this was a fantastic opportunity because the terrain that existed previously, not the best.
Yeah, it had been beat up, it had been used. It was just kind of random because it wasn't really collected with
A singular mindset.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I'm going to donate this or I'm going to donate that, and so we're gonna talk about the benefits of not doing it that way.
Yeah, like, well, yeah, I think you can take it from there about how we were able to have a vision for each table.
That's right. So number one, start with vision. You gotta know the direction you're going.
Not the Marvel superhero.
That's right.
I do like an android in a sweater, though.
Yeah.
And if he's next door, it's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to this. This is a great approach to take it. There was the vision for the homemade tables and the vision for the purchase tables.
That's right.
Phil did all the purchasing for the store-bought tables. He was
Hats to you, Phil.
yeah, good work, Phil. I don't know if he listens. I mention the podcast to him sometimes. He's like, what? Okay, whatever. So he was like, basically we bought 3 game mats and then 3 sets of pre-purchased terrain and just matched them with each other.
Yeah. So this is coming out of a vision. All right. This is how it sets itself up. We need 6 tables and we got 2 months, right?
God, remember?
Yeah.
Remember the beginning of the summer?
And so clearly,
How much fun we had?
clearly
It
we
was a ton of fun.
It was a ton of fun.
we could not build 6 full tables, right? And so that's great. We got this big budget. We might as well outsource half of it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's all to our benefit because that stuff's sweet, right? But that's not what we're talking about in this section. We're talking about how do we do the other half of this, which is how do we build 3 full tables, and not just for the sake of getting 3 tables out of it, but we also had the objective of wanting to rally the club around this, get new people interested, allow some on-ramps into joining the club, as well as making new friends, and just really doing something.
Yeah, because there's 2 approaches you can take to this. This can be a very individual hobby project, right? Because one of the first things I did, I built my own table. I got a mat, I was 14. My dad and I went to Home Depot. We bought the styrofoam. I put a mask on. I got my mom's old curling iron, and I just went to town making trenches and rivers in a styrofoam thing. It was awesome. It turned out really. I made a lake of blood. Then we painted the bottom blood red. And then we made a river of blood. Painted that red, and my dad got 2-part epoxy, and we poured it in there and made water effects. And it was really cool.
That's awesome.
But that's kind of an individual one, and I think that's where you came from when we started this. And I remember having to tell you, other people are going to be working on this stuff. We need to have an actual plan. So if Adam's not there, if Paul's not there, if the brainchild behind this particular table isn't there, anybody can come in and kind of be like, I understand where we're going. We know exactly what pieces of terrain we need, and kind of break it down into a more industrial style as opposed to an artisanal one.
Yeah, we got good at the splitting all of the stuff up into small jobs.
Yeah.
So the vision was, let's rally the club, let's have some fun with each other, and let's get these 3 tables done.
Yeah.
Here's your timeline. So have a timeline.
Yep.
Right. That's important. You gotta have a target in mind
And a budget.
Yeah. And then, especially when it.
You did not meet the budget.
How much did we go over, though?
Yeah. $400.
acceptable.
Most of that was due to
Duties.
Duties,
import
right.
tariffs
Yeah.
from the new administration in the United States.
Yeah. So, anyways, so because if you're gonna do this, if you got a gaming club or you got a group of guys, people got to know what's going on, and so communicating about the logistics, when are we meeting, where are we meeting, but also communicating the vision is really important. And we had varying levels of success with that. I think with certain tables, we did really well. Like Paul, we had a great fun planning them out,
Yeah.
and then actually explaining the execution of it was a different thing, right? And
Oh,
so for
absolutely.
some tables we nailed it, and for some tables it was a little more difficult.
So this is a good opportunity to jump into, I think, some of the more nitty gritty stuff. But to execute it, what do you need? What do we need to actually execute it in terms of hard materials? So like how do you actually build stuff?
More glue than you think you'll ever need.
Yeah. So this actually that's on my next point.
Oh, that's not your next point?
It's in the next point.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll hold off on that for a second. But if you're gonna get a project of this size done, communicate frequently, communicate clearly, communicate and have a consistent time to meet. So we picked, like every Saturday morning or every Thursday night we're going to be doing this. And then closer to the deadline, it was going to be like, all right, well, let's just meet every day. Because
Yep, yeah, and we started like having people. We essentially had like shift foremans.
yeah.
Where like I was there and people would come in, we would get like some dry brushing done, or someone would come in, we'd be like, oh, we're doing paper mache for any like styrofoam elements that needed to be paper mache so they could be handled. So yeah, I guess we just had foremans directing work in a really fun way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? And this came up so many times as well, and this is just a great shout out to the club. So many people were like, I don't have any skills. It's like, you don't need skills to throw newspaper in glue water and then slap it on things.
Yeah.
We're not looking for skill.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
need hands and labor.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So we're going to get to how to include people like that.
Yeah.
So let's get on to the materials thing. So one of my points, I labeled it this: just go all out, right? Get more than enough stuff that you need, because
you can make more.
You can make more,
Yeah.
or people are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Like, you want to have room to be creative. You want to have room to fail, and the materials are cheap,
Yeah.
right? So just get the right stuff and get more than
You
enough.
can never have enough spackle.
That's it. We certainly learned that.
Spackle, white glue, and sand.
Yep, those are always the things you're going to need.
Yeah. So let's talk about some basic materials. We got spackle, white glue, sand on there.
Yeah.
Right. We got our wooden boards.
Yep, styrofoam.
Styrofoam, definitely. So what kind of styrofoam are we talking about? What's the best stuff to use?
Foam core for certain things.
Yeah, foam core for like things like buildings, anything you want to hold a uniform shape.
And then like your what's it called? The insulation.
The Pink
foam.
Panther stuff.
Pink Panther comes blue, comes in 2-inch, 1-inch, and maybe 3.
I think it was like 1 point. It was in 0.5 up to 2.5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that stuff you can cut with a wire cutter.
That's another important thing.
Mhm.
Foam wire cutters, not easy to come by.
Nope.
And the replacement wires, also not easy to come
I
by.
think you can use guitar strings.
No.
Ooh,
No?
Let me tell you a funny story. So when I was getting that wire so we broke our wire for our hot wire cutter,
Yeah.
which is basically a piece of wire attached to 2 pieces of metal attached to batteries. Which is it just sounds super dangerous, but it's like the best thing for the job.
Oh, yeah. You just put on a mask or do it outside.
Yeah. Anyway, so I asked the guy, hey, I went to a home hardware or whatever. I was like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, what should I use for this? And he was like, oh, you could use this, but, I think if you heat it really hot, it's like super poisonous. And I was like, oh, well, do you have anything that's not poisonous? He was like, no. It's like, well, I'll just take that one then.
I think galvanized steel wire, which is what you got, is exactly what you need. Because we weren't heating it up to the point where it was like incandescent.
Yeah, where you
Right.
actually burn the materials that it's made of.
Yeah, no.
It's when you're actually burning that material.
Yeah, there was no combustion. But
Yeah. So, anyways, any other materials that are kind of
Paint.
Paint? Yeah.
sure? Yeah.
You definitely need paint. Super glue. Toothpicks.
Toothpicks, you'll use them.
Back to the Zone Mortalis thing.
Finishing nails.
Finishing nails, a paper cutter, and tubular plastic.
I don't
cutter.
even want to talk about those rivets. I think we mentioned the rivets on the
We've definitely told the rivet
podcast
story.
before, so long-time listeners, you know the rivet story. Point is, if you have rivets, just get carpenter nails or finishing nails and just push them into whatever you're working with. It's so much easier.
And it helps hold it
And
together.
it helps hold it together. Oh god, I'm gonna wake up tonight thinking about that.
So this, I guess, if that's all our like basic materials, like you can get a lot of work done just with those things.
Mm-hmm.
Newspaper.
Yeah, some newspaper.
What else?
So to that point, okay, if you're gonna make basic hills, you're gonna do big chunks of styrofoam, and you want it to be for public use and not just personal use, and so you don't know how it's gonna be treated, you don't know who's taking care of it. You have to paper mache every piece of styrofoam.
I would suggest paper macheing it anyways. It gave it such a more organic look,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like a much not as like because straight edges don't exist in the natural universe outside of human beings and aliens. So having the paper mache kind of deaden a lot of the hard cuts really took things to the next level. So it's just a great suggestion, but it serves a dual purpose, which is protecting the actual piece of terrain from damage.
fashion and function.
Yes.
Both of those F words should be in your mind as you make terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's another F word that is shouted quite often when you're making terrain.
When you make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's no mistakes. It's Bob Ross rules.
Yeah, cool. And there's another F word that I really like when it comes to making terrain.
And what's that?
Make it fun.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fun. And this is a big priority for working with large groups of people. Is it just has to be fun.
Yeah.
Part of the fun is getting something done and actually executing it, and especially when you're on a timeline, because that totally I get going on that kind of stuff. Let's get this going. Let's get it awesome.
We had a blast doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
Paul and I got over our unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, respective, not with each other.
Not with each other. Working on a terrain project together.
Yeah.
Right? It was great.
And so
We had fun doing it. We could just set aside that other life for a second.
That's right. But to what I was going to say is some of the fun is in getting it done, but some of the fun is in just doing it and just being together.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Right? And so to help make it fun for people who don't feel like they have many skills or much to add, because you're just going to have those people, and you actually want them around because they add a lot to your gaming club. Not everybody's going to be like a top table or a top hobbyist type person.
Hey, man, free labor is free labor.
That's right. So part of it is
Built pyramids.
Hey, the pyramids were built by skilled craftsmen who were on leave from farming because they weren't farming in the winter. That was proven lately. Weren't slaves.
Me. Yeah, it's probably better. Makes me feel a little bit better about the pyramids.
Yeah, you're not gonna get
I thought
slaves.
it was aliens.
Yeah, you're not gonna get slaves to do high quality craftsmanship work.
I'm not pro-slavery, guys.
Yeah, sounded like you were for a second.
So the point is be encouraging to those people when they do something that's on point. Point it out. Man, you did that really awesome. Or I really like how you were trying to get creative with this idea for this. And so that also ties into being flexible with your vision, right? And so our vision for the actual completed product was pretty generic, I think, for a lot of the tables.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, you and I, we sat down and we just kind of sketched them on an 8.5 by 11, right?
Yeah.
The actual nitty gritty of what it was going to look like in the very, very end, we were like, here's a rectangle, that's a building, label it building, right?
Yeah.
And so then we said, hey man, could you just make a building about this size, about 8 inch by 12 inches. Here's your base for it. Make a building that fits on this base, and so you can be flexible with your vision there.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a large group of people, allow them to get creative.
Yeah, and but especially you were always there.
And always encouraging.
Always encouraging and always there to offer guidance as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that was the most important part. Because when you're talking to people who don't have that skill, they don't have the confidence to do it. So they don't want to make a mistake. But at the same time, there's not a single bad piece of terrain that we made.
Yeah, we don't have any bad.
I don't think there was anything we threw out that we made for the terrain push.
And so also just allow for variations in quality and just kind of embrace that, like, this is a community project.
Yeah.
And it's actually going to be better because of that. You're going to get more done. You can't, just as the terrain executive representative of Hogtown 40K, like, if I did it all myself, sure, we could have some, like, top tier terrain, but it doesn't need to be that.
And we have top tier terrain.
And we do have top tier terrain. We do have top tier terrain because we allowed multiple creative inputs into each individual piece, and people were more willing to rally around a singular vision for each table. And so here's, you mentioned something about guidance before. There's a difference between being a taskmaster for a large group of people in, like, just getting something done, and being somebody who is a coach or a subject expert that is just giving input.
Yeah.
And so know how to be the difference between those things.
But here's the thing: is when you were doing it, you did a very good job of stepping in, and when something wasn't going properly, steering it in the right direction, right? And offering suggestions on how to improve something. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little pissed off at you on one of the terrain days because we worked for a while on something, and you were like, "I don't like it. We're going to do it this way." And you basically tore everything that I had spent the last 4 hours apart doing and rebuilt it from the ground up. And at first I was like, Adam could have said something when we started this. But then in the finished product, I was like, no, he was absolutely right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He did the right thing.
He did the right thing. And I think that's important as well. Because you have to be like, you have to be flexible for your vision, but at the same time, you have to know when to be like, no, that is not what we want, because you had an idea of the finished product. A lot of the people who were working on it didn't, right?
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to keep in mind as well.
And to be fair, part of it was like, we kind of, as we communicated about how we were going to execute on something, you guys were executing on how we talked about it.
Yeah, and then you noticed a better way to do it.
That's right. So as the plan was unfolding, there needed to be tweaks.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and we just kind of realized it on the fly, and that's okay.
No, it's totally fine.
That's okay.
It just sucks when you're, breathing dust in a sweaty basement and covered in styrofoam dust and
Shavings.
tired and
Yeah.
I was like, tear that apart and rebuild it. You're like, no.
Yeah. But the same thing kind of happened with the Zone Mortalis table, right? I came downstairs, you guys were getting out your frustrations from the breakups out on these innocent pieces of styrofoam.
That battle damage added character out.
There's no such thing as innocence. There's only varying degrees of guilt.
And then, we had such a great time saying, like, hey, like, this is a great start. Like, let's make this thing awesome.
Yeah.
And, like, let's take it to the next level. And we did. Anyway.
We have to use that table again.
We do.
Yeah.
Well,
we frequently come up with excuses to use that table.
Yeah, I'd like to see some Zone Mortalis rules developed for 8th edition. That would be super cool.
Yeah.
Well, I
Let's
think
work on it.
Yeah, I think we've covered everything we wanted to talk about. Adam, you got any last words on this topic?
Man, love terrain. go for those style points. Don't slack. Make it fun to do it, and just like use it as an excuse to have fun with your friends. Like that's where you're gonna get the best terrain.
Yeah.
So I would love to talk to the gentleman at the Snail and Nail about getting. I know it was mentioned, and we kind of do have like the terrain board, which is the floating demon table one, but it would be so cool to get somebody like Jason or Dylan to build a permanent gaming table. So what I mean by that is a lipped gaming table with like a shelf underneath, and actually build like the coolest one I've ever seen.
So you're not talking about the actual gaming surface?
No, I'm
You're talking about the
both.
thing that holds it up?
Both.
Okay.
So we do the actual thing that holds it up.
Yeah.
And then we do like a kick-ass, like full-on diorama style table of like Armageddon, Stalingrad, future New York City, whatever you want to call it. That's what we aimed for. Or just like a crazy trench warfare thing. Something really stylized, something specific, something that doesn't have a lot of movable pieces.
Yeah, it's just sweet.
Yeah, just because we're looking for a terrain project for the next year. And I think something like that is the next level. Because we proved ourselves as a club. You proved yourself as a taskmaster / coach.
So we said that I was not the taskmaster.
/ terrain executive leader.
You were two things.
But this is something that would work really well with, like, you get a core group of like 6 people. You know, you get dedicated people, and you get that done over the course of like 3 or 4 months, as opposed to we were rushed. We did a very good job. We were rushed. We did the best we could, and I can't fault any of those tables.
Yeah, and other gaming communities are really enjoying the fruit of our labors. You know.
Oh, they definitely are. Everybody. As I see the War Machine guys playing on it, the
Infinity people.
people.
They bring their own terrain a lot.
Yeah,
They do. Yeah, most of it supplements what we've kind of laid out for them, but
yeah. Let's do it. Let's build like a ruined city.
could be. So a note on that for all our podcast people: if you're going to do a highly specialized project like this, keep a tight core of people who have the skills and abilities to execute on something like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because if you bring in somebody whose specialty is ballroom dancing, and then you ask them to cut strips of styrofoam at 3 inches,
And they give you 3.5 and assume that is an acceptable level of variance.
But that's not even the issue, right? It's like 2.75 on one end and like 3.5 on the other end.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a straight line.
That is precisely what we got.
yep, that is precisely what we got.
I mean,
Kristen.
That never happened. All right, well, shall we take a quick little break and then come back with some sort of time of mirth?
Of mirth?
Yeah.
Of joviality?
Yeah.
Do we call it
Fun time. All right.
Fun time.
All right, quick break, and we'll be right back.
Fun
time. Adam's really mad that we just did that twice, but we took a little... Ships come into port.
every week?
Every week it's something. So for this edition of Fun Time, we're going to throw it out to our main man, Connor, because of his newfound love of the...
Imperial Guard?
Yeah, Imperial Guard, not Astra Militarum.
Astra Milla, what now?
You're in the Guard, son! So, GW, over the last couple of days, released some teasers from their drips and drabs, which I love the way they're doing that. And we're getting regimental doctrines, which for anyone who's been playing the Imperial Guard for a while will recognize as your standard regiments. Yeah. So the first one that came out were the Catechins. Catechins.
Okay.
And then the one that came out that I'm going to talk about is the Mordians. So the Mordian Iron Guard were the first models that I had. They were my first army. I still have a couple kicking around. I absolutely love them.
Those Prussian dress blues, man. Those Prussian dress blues.
I might just paint up a tiny little force of them and ally them in with my Imperial Guard.
They go so well with the
Imperial Fists?
Imperial Fist, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you caught that. Same time, but they would go very well with the Imperial Guard.
Yeah, so the regimental doctrine that they get is called Parade Drill. And basically what this is...
They don't just look pretty.
They kill pretty. So every... if the base of every model in an infantry unit with this doctrine is touching the base of at least one other model from the same unit, the unit has +1 leadership, and you can add 1 to the hit rolls made for that unit when firing an Overwatch. And you can do this with vehicles as well if they are within 3 inches of one or more friendly Mordian vehicles, which is hilarious. It makes them a little bit more dangerous to charge. So, you throw this on, like, a unit of Leman Russ Punishers, or any Leman Russes, really, and you're getting a lot of, 5 up to hit in Overwatch.
Like, you don't mind, and especially with them being so close together, you don't care you're getting multi-charged.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
templates are gone.
Charge my unit of 3 Punisher tanks.
Yeah, oh no.
I'm just gonna shoot you with 60 shots.
But then
hitting on 5s.
there's a Astra Militarum stratagem, which is 1 command point, and you use it when a charge is declared against one of your vehicles. Now that unit gets +1 to hit. Now they get Overwatch on 5 or 6. So with the Mordian doctrine, that gives you +1. You're getting +1 to 5 or 6. So now you're hitting on 4 ups in so Overwatch.
You're hitting on regular ballistic skill.
Yeah, that totally makes your charging any Mordian tanks just a very unattractive option.
Yeah.
Then there's grinding advance for Leman Russes, which allows any Leman Russ moving under half its allotted move value to fire its primary weapon twice.
Is that a rule or a command point?
That is just a rule.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's so good.
Oh no.
So and that's for everything. Then
how is that a thing?
Oh,
that's so good, especially
is.
for a unit that is part of their classic range.
Mm-hmm. And then the cool thing that we're seeing...
Time to get that Deathcore Krieg army I've always wanted to do up and running.
If somebody's like, I'm going to use these Cadian models as Mordians,
no.
I'm going to be like, no way.
You are not.
No, you will not.
But then we're seeing what they're doing with veterans in this codex, which is really cool. You pick the regiment that your veterans are from as well.
Are those orders or special rules?
It says that they're... for the veterans, it's a unique order.
Oh, cool. All right, I like how that works.
Yeah, so the Mordian unique order for their veterans is form firing squad. With but a word from their commanding officers, the Mordian infantry take on the role of executioners. So this allows you, for the end, until the end of the phase, the ordered unit can target characters with their rapid-fire weapons, even if they're not the closest units. That makes Plasma Vets in a Valkyrie one of the trolliest units, and I am so into it.
Is there a model of a Mordian Iron Guard with a plasma gun?
Yeah,
there definitely is.
Great. Fabulous.
Yeah, that's so cool. The picture that they got thrown in here is the old metal box. It's the guys with the last cannons and the grenade launcher.
Yep.
So yeah, I want to dig mine out and maybe paint them up. Adam, I was wondering, would you be so kind as to take us through the Catechin?
I would love to. So
Thanks.
my second 40k army ever, after I started with Space Orcs back in third edition when it was called Space Orcs.
Orc with a K.
Sporks.
And then what was the book that came out where these guys were first introduced? It was the
They had
their own codex.
Yeah, in third
their
edition
own?
they had their own codex.
Yeah. Separate from
Separate from Imperial Guard. It was like a supplement when they were doing those.
That's right. So I jumped on it because I was like, these guys are awesome. I can have a whole army of Rambo. Why would you not want that?
Yeah.
So I got it. I got a whole bunch of plastic dudes. I don't think I got any tanks. I built it up maybe halfway to like what I really could have. And I still didn't really know the game at that point, because I was kind of too young and didn't really have a community to play with. But I just loved painting models, and I just loved the aesthetic of these guys. So, all right, let's jump right into it. The regimental doctrine, which is kind of how it's kind of like chapter tactics for Space Marines, is called the brutal strength. So they got those big
Beefcakes.
they got those big hulking.
They've been lifting gravity weights.
That's right. That's
Baby
right.
Ogrins. That's what everyone calls them.
Mini Ogrins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so brutal strength. So it's for infantry units. They add 1 to their strength characteristic. That's just all the time. It's not situational. You just have strength 4 guardsmen running around.
That's nuts. Strength 4 Strength 4 conscripts if they get the Legion Doctrine.
I have a feeling that conscripts are not going to get their Legion traits or be able to receive orders in the new book.
Ooh, that would really help make conscripts not dumb.
Yeah. I mean, if the commissar I got, when people were like, they shouldn't get buffed by commissars, I'm like,
That's
exactly what you want a commissar for. But like, no, they shouldn't be able to be like, yes, sir, we're gonna execute some really
like
tough military drill. No,
Yeah,
they're teenagers.
I would like to see commissars having to kill D3 of them as opposed to one where it's like, executions continue until morale improves.
And not even just teenagers. Like I think about my buddy Justin who went to the Navy. He's just not going to listen to that guy.
It would be the 3 of us. That's what it would be. Like,
Nope, not sticking around. See you later.
Yeah, it would be like, so we want you to fire twice at that crown effects. I'd be like, nobody. Shan't.
Yeah, I'm gonna fire above it twice.
I don't want to hurt it.
So that was only the first sentence. And we had that much fun with this. All right, so the next sentence. In addition, they can add 1 to their leadership characteristic if they're within 6 inches of a friendly Catachan officer.
That's not bad. That's a handy little buff.
Handy little buff. Not overpowering. Pretty cool, right? And fluffy, right?
Yeah.
Your officer's standing there. You want to do well. All right, cool. So here's a game changer for this one. This is all the same chapter tactic, by the way. Each time a vehicle with this doctrine fires a ranged weapon that makes a random number of attacks, so that's your battle cannons, your demolisher cannons, your plasma cannons,
Your
everything.
hellhound.
Hellhound, sure, yeah, your hellhound,
Flamers.
yeah.
Wyverns.
Inferno cannons?
Wyverns.
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 Basilisks.
Wyverns.
Manacores.
There you go.
Worms.
So,
Drakes?
the Death Strike missiles. Death Strike missiles?
Tell me. Oh,
Death Strike missiles that do mortal wounds?
oh cats.
Alright, so we didn't even get to what they do. So makes a random number of attacks. So any of those vehicles, you can re-roll 1 of the dice used to determine how many attacks you get.
That's so clutch.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. You
And-
roll that 1, like how many times you're like, I'm gonna fire my battle cannon. You roll that 1.
And like, I love that for the Catachans. They have in the I don't know if they still have them. They probably do. They have guys with heavy flamers. Like,
Yeah, no, you can take a guard heavy flamer weapon squad. Yeah.
yeah, like
This is for vehicles.
for vehicles.
Yeah.
That's still cool. But fire. They
Yeah.
they got to clear out jungle,
Yeah.
man.
Awesome. So that's just the regimental doctrine. So already that's pretty cool. I mean, they suggest you pair it with the Death Strike missiles. I could just imagine like a group of these tanks sitting in an open clearing, and like the infantry go into the jungle, and they're like calling in these airstrikes of these mortal wound dropping like missiles.
But death strikes aren't random shots, are they?
Aren't they?
No, I think.
Oh, it's a random number of mortal wounds?
Yeah, I think death strikes. There was something else in that article about death strikes. Yeah. Okay. So there's the vortex missile. So you use this stratagem before you fire a death strike missile. You can reroll failed to hit rolls for this shot. In addition, add +1 to the roll made to determine whether other units within 6 inches are hit.
That's the random part of it.
If a model is wounded but not slain by the attack, roll another dice. On a 6, that model suffers a further d6 mortal wounds. So I think the way Death Strike missiles work, it's like you pick a spot on the table or a unit, and then
Yeah.
everything within like 6 inches takes D3 mortal wounds on a
as well.
4 up, so that'll be a 3 up. I don't know. That's really good.
Yeah, like that's when you're trying to just like take down a knight or blow up a unit of like sneaky terminators. Just so
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, this is a stratagem that's
Ooh.
generic to all Astra Militarum.
It's 3 command points.
It's 3 command points. But to be fair,
You have so many command points with
Yeah.
the Astromito.
on average, you're seeing like 9 command point Astra Militarum armies. Sometimes up to 12. Like, you have lots to go around.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the final stratagem that's here, that's Catachan only, is called Vicious Traps. So when a Catachan unit gets charged, you can roll dice, and on a 4+, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds.
That's hilarious. I love that. For
Yeah, kinda-
one command point?
Yeah, kind of fun, right?
I like that a lot.
Yeah. One
Because
command point, 50-50 chance.
In the 3rd edition, you used to be able to booby trap stuff. Like,
Yes.
you used to be able to booby trap terrain.
Pieces of train, yeah.
So I like that they're going back to the flavor and making it work for 7th.
Yeah.
8th.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, Guard are coming up. They're going to be cool.
Yeah, tomorrow they release the rules for
Voice Throyan?
Nostroians, which I have a little force of.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Nice.
Excited.
I thought they were releasing Steel Legion.
They're doing... Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, GW works in mysterious ways.
So did we have fun with it?
I'm looking forward to it. The fact that Imperial Guard stuff's affecting their vehicles, holy crap.
It should, though. Their vehicles need to be a little less beefy. I don't know.
Have you played an
That
Imperial
doesn't make
Guard
them
army?
less
I have. Remember? Connor?
Forgot his tanks?
Yeah. I played him after that.
And how'd that go?
Not good. Anyways, guys, I think that's it for us tonight.
Can we also just say, too, like, we've done 20 episodes now?
I know, we need to...
That's 2 X's.
That's the double decasode.
Double deck-a-sode.
Double deck-a-sode.
You know what? We should get drunk for 21. Because it's legal drinking age.
Well, I won't. But
I'll
have a couple beers with you.
We'll call you a cab.
You're not getting drunk Saturday night with us?
And that's not what I do.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fair.
Well, anyways, for Adam and Nick, I'm Paul Fowler. This is Inches and Cubes.
Connor, wake up.
Wake up, Connor.
Like a monkey in a rocket on his way back home. Okay.